welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a very entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. This actually was sent to the SSM channel, but given the length of it and the subject matter, it was definitely more appropriate over here. This is about a guy in his late 40s, divorced a few years ago, and shares his story how for like 20 years, really thought he had a great marriage. Everything seemed really good. But lo and behold, about the time that the virus hit the world, he started noticing very suspicious behavior from his wife. And ultimately, thanks to technology, was able to see she was up to no good talking to some other guy. And instead of losing his mind, he played it cool, played the long game, and started tracking down who this guy was and tracks down his wife. And ultimately, they worked together to bust these two. And bust them they do in the most hilarious way possible, including video footage. And this whole thing is just a whole journey of all the BS that goes on with this whole thing, how this guy definitely has the last laugh in a very unusual way, as well as the wife of the guy that was cheating with his wife, all that. So it's definitely an entertaining one. Now, guys, this is a very long one, so this is going to be split into two parts. So if you don't want to wait too long, pause the video, come back in 2 hours, and I'll have part 2 then. Definitely worth your time. So, without further ado, because again it's a long one, starts off, says here, hello SSM. A long-time viewer here, but I sure wish content like yours was around decades ago. The sad thing is, your content wouldn't have stopped the inevitable. It seems it happened to married men every day. No matter what, guys, this is going to happen, but hopefully you guys can learn from people's mistakes. You can use my name as Ryan if you decide to share this story, since you're pretty good at keeping people's identities private. I'll be smacked, but it is what it is, because this doesn't quite end the way most people would think. First off, my marriage is going to be a short story. My first marriage. Yeah, this is about a second marriage. My first marriage is going to be a short story and to the point. I got married the first time around 30 years ago. He says, married too young after being together for only 3 years, as we got together as teenagers. Smack, you nuts. Well, watch this. She got pregnant 5 months after we got married. A few months into her pregnancy, her ex showed up claiming he had slept with my wife a few times after being told that we were in an open marriage, and that he was convinced he was the father. Well, did they call open marriages back then, or just, she probably said something equivalent to that. There you go. How many guys cheat with women? How many guys sleep with women thinking they're single and they're actually married or have a boyfriend? I confronted my wife, and she did the whole Tusken Raider crying thing and admitted to sleeping with him, but swore the baby was mine, and she regretted it and wanted to stay with me. Of course she's going to say the baby's yours. I couldn't afford a prenatal paternity test back then, so I told her whether I stuck around after the birth was if I was the baby's father. He said, yeah, smack, I should have planned to leave no matter what. You're darn right, why would you stay with a cheater? But I'm going to guess you probably wouldn't have done that. If the baby wasn't mine, I was not going to raise her a fair baby. The baby was born, and guess what? I wasn't the father. Big surprise. Neither was my wife's lover. So she had another lover that she was cheating on you with? Ended up being her coworker's son. I divorced her, cut her and dry, and we didn't have much other than that we brought into the marriage. If the cheating and paternity fraud weren't bad enough, my younger brother, who was my only sibling, passed away in a crash before we found out the baby was mine. That year was a nightmare for me. Damn, dude, I'm sorry. You'd think I would have learned my lesson about avoiding relationships, but no. I dated around, and most women I came across didn't have a faithful bone in their body until I got involved with my second wife. You would think after his first marriage, and what happened, and dating all these women that proven not a faithful bone in their body, he wouldn't get married a second time. But nope, these people don't learn. So, on to my second marriage, to Michelle. Smack! That's what you get for getting married again after all that. The marriage seemed to be great for almost 2 decades. We've been friends for years, so we already knew each other well since we were in the same friend circle. She was divorced from a serial cheater and had 2 kids. You married a single mom, dude? Smack! You know that. You know better than... Well, okay, this is 20 years ago. You didn't know better, but still. We reciprocated the whole king and queen treatment with each other. Well, that's good. She already had her tubes tied before she caught her husband cheating, so she was done with having kids. Her ex-husband was your usual deadbeat, so I ended up raising her 2 kids like they were my own. Smack! Not your problem, dude, but what's done is done. And by the way, guys, given how this is starting, maybe some of you may be inclined to go away. You want to stick around. This is a good one. Trust me. Marrying her meant I was never going to get any biological kids of my own, which I did in fact want. So the sacrifice to be married to what I felt was a great woman was worth it. So I thought. Smack! If you wanted your own kids, you should have gotten married to her, dude. But what's done is done. Besides, her 2 kids treat me like I was their father. I walked my stepdaughter down the aisle at her wedding, and I was my stepson's best man. So yeah, I can say the father-children bond was strong. Well, that's good, man, because usually it's not. So I'm happy that happened, dude. So where did things go wrong after almost 20 years of a great marriage? The pandemic, lockdown, and my last living parent passed away of natural causes in the same year. We felt the stress of a lot of marriages felt over the lockdowns, job losses, careers ruined, loved ones getting sick, and the walls closing in. To top it off, one of our daily driver vehicles finally died, and we needed a new replacement vehicle. I bought a new crew cab truck right before the new used car market went stupid and interest rates rose. This truck had a feature that we weren't used to, Bluetooth cell phone connection. It was a cool feature that with our phones synced to the truck, I would automatically connect if there was a phone call. That is what became my second wife's unexpected undoing. Well, thank you for technology. One evening, after we both got off work during this lockdown, both of us were mandatory employees who didn't get laid off and offices were doing in-office rotations. I managed to get in behind her at a red light. She was on her phone, and my truck's Bluetooth hijacked her cell phone. She was talking to a coworker about him coming to our house Saturday morning to finally get to have some fun while I was supposed to be doing some extra paperwork at work. Oh my God, what are the odds? You're behind her in traffic, and I know how these things work. They will sync into phone calls if you're connected, and you can hear everything, and you're hearing that. I mean, aside from pissing you off, that's heartbreaking because obviously you loved her. I was confused at first because I had only heard his voice and saw his name pop up my truck's display screen. I didn't say anything, and when the light turned red, my wife got out of range of my truck's Bluetooth connection. You mean when the light turned green? I got back close to her as we were going down the road, and it hijacked her phone once again, and he said her name, asking her cell phone was messing up. So I backed off after I saw his name come up on the screen's caller ID, so I would go back to her phone. No doubt what was going on, I was pissed off but kept my cool. Well, dude, it's amazing you kept your cool. Most guys would not keep their cool. And it'd be understandable if guys didn't keep their cool. But you're not going to find out what's really going on unless you play the long game. And I'm going to guess after 20 years of marriage, you probably weren't so deeply in love as you might have been early on. You loved her, but there's a degree of love and in love, that type of thing. When I got home, the truck had already saved his name and phone number. It was a landline, not a cell phone. I looked at my phone records and saw they'd been talking for about a month and a half. I went to Facebook, since I had his full name from the truck's caller ID, and found him. Yep, wife and he were friends. He didn't have a lot of pictures, just a lot of stupid memes, but there was a married to section in his bio, so I found his wife. It's amazing how you can find things about people online or just by logging into social media. You know? I've been off Facebook and those things for years now. No thanks, I'm never going back. Her profile was set to private, but I sent her a message anyway saying I need to talk to her about something fishy going on between her husband Mike and my wife Michelle. And named their place of employment so she wouldn't think it was some kind of random scammer. Well, flip a coin if she actually sees this message, because I think Facebook, at least they used to, you have your messages, and then the ones from people that aren't connected to you are put away, and you might not even get a notification if that happens. So it was possible she never even saw this. I mean, she might not have seen it, you know. You're lucky she did. Well, my wife was acting off and pretty guarded of her phone for almost a month to that point. Of course she was. So I didn't have an opportunity to scoop and snoop her phone on their Saturday meetup plans. I pretended to have to work on a few things from work on our home computer and stayed up that night and Friday night to avoid her trying to cuddle with me, considering what I knew was going on behind my back. Yeah, bro. I mean, women aren't stupid. If you start behaving differently, I guarantee she'd notice. So either she was so absorbed in herself, she didn't notice you acting different, or you kept your cool pretty well. Your poker face was good. That Friday afternoon before I got off work, Mike's wife, Camille, texted me her number and asked me to call. I got my work done on Friday, so I wasn't going to go back to work on Saturday, but I didn't tell my wife that. I called Camille, and she had suspected something was going on, but didn't find anything, since he was talking or calling from his cell phone. I told her how my truck hijacked her phone call, and she didn't have his Facebook password to snoop either. She was pretty calm, but I could tell that she was angry. She shared with me that she'd just gotten over a miscarriage a few months back, and they were trying to start again for their first child. She did say that she was working a graveyard shift overnight and would be getting off work about the same time I was already supposed to be gone Saturday. So she and I had a plan. Mike had already told her that he was possibly working out of town Saturday, so not to expect him to be home when she got off work. Well, this dude's wife and Mike are in for a surprise. So I left to pretend to go to work that Saturday morning and waited for about 30 minutes a few blocks away at the gas station. Camille called me and said that she just got off work and was on her way to my house. I waited to give her enough time to possibly get there at the same time as me and saw a truck in my driveway that I didn't recognize. How dumb is it that this cheater is showing up at this guy's house when the neighbors could say, hey, I saw this truck there the other day, you know? As I pulled in, a police car pulled in behind me. I just thought, what the hell is this? So I stepped out of my truck, as she was getting out of her patrol car. Camille was a police officer. Uh-oh. That dude that's banging your wife, man, he messed with the wrong girl. She's a cop. Now you got somebody there to be a witness to certain things. I realized who she was when she said my name. The woman was a gorgeous, green-eyed, dirty blonde, hair in a ponytail, in a tight uniform that didn't leave much to the imagination, and full of fire and anger. Maybe she's a stripper. This is just her stripper outfit. She got off work, the graveyard shift. You know what that means. Nah, she's a cop. She asked if I was ready to do this, and that she had a body cam if this became a criminal complaint, even though she was technically off duty. So I agreed the cam should go on because her husband was most definitely unwelcome on my property and considered a trespasser by me. Well, he is. This was also a deterrent from me beating his ass on camera, which would just cause me legal trouble. So we quietly went inside my house and headed to my bedroom. We both heard them talking. I took my phone out to record as well. The bedroom door was unlocked, so I just pushed the door quickly open and surprised the hell out of both of them. What did we walk into? Well, I walked into one of the worst things a married man wants to see. All right, guys, you can all start to speculate what particularly he was talking about here. My wife was sitting on our bed wearing only a thong, with Mike laying there butt naked with one of my wife's hands wrapped around his you-know-what. They froze. My wife then turned white as a ghost and then threw up in Mike's lap. And then in the bed and then on the floor. Holy crap, that's disgusting. She was about to give him a BJ, was in the process of it, and then blah. Then Camille came in right behind me, tapped towards her body cam, and patted her Glock. She calmly said, Mr. Ryan, do you know this man? Is my husband allowed to be here, or is he trespassing? Or is he committing assault on your wife? When I shook my head no, I saw the corner of my eye my wife's phone propped up against the TV facing the bed. She's recording this. She's recording herself, in her thong, butt naked with him, doing their thing, and the recording caught her barfing all over him. I immediately reached over and grabbed it and pressed stop on the recording. All I could say was, really? You're even recording this? And I went to the video files and airdropped the video clip to my cell phone and put my wife's phone in my pocket. Of course, my wife was crying, covering herself up, apologizing, and all the usual begging, claiming they didn't do anything yet, that she got sick to her stomach and was going to stop. I'm walking in on you. He's butt naked on my bed. You're naked except for your little thong going up your ass. And you had your hand on his schlong. And you were doing other things. Nothing's happened? Yeah, I've seen enough, sweetheart. I just shook my head and told Camille Mike is trespassing and I want him off my property immediately. But given the circumstances, I need a witness so my current wife cannot file false allegations against me. She told me not to worry, that her body cam is still on and can be used as evidence in the criminal proceedings. I told Mike to get dressed, and if he ever comes near me or my family again, I'll file charges against him. This guy has not spoken a word, not even to his wife. He just took the cleanest part of the towel he was laying on to wipe off the puke, got dressed, and left without saying a thing to any of us. Yeah, I can imagine. Again, can you imagine seeing this, guys? They're there about to get down. Well, they are getting down, let's be honest. And in comes their spouses. After Mike left, I told my wife to get a week's worth of clothes and clean up her vomit. I told her she disgusted me and I couldn't stand the sight of her. I let her know that we were going to watch this video clip together on our smart TV in the living room before we left. She begged me not to watch it, but I reminded her that she had no problem doing this in our home, so this is our new home movie for everybody to enjoy. Camille, by this time, I could tell, was on the verge of breaking down. The tough cop act was finally breaking. Camille texted Mike as Michelle was getting her shit together that he better not be home when she gets there. We watched the video together as my wife cried, and Camille just looked like she was a mixture of being furious and fighting back the tears. Me, I was furious, but trying to stay cold and in control so I wouldn't do something stupid. Very good, my man. By the way, guys, you can hear my voice. I've been sick the last 5 days, so show must go on. So I appreciate you bearing with me with my voice like this and occasionally mumbling words together. Do my best. Anyway, the video that was on her phone basically was them groping and kissing each other, undressing each other, back to kissing and groping. We busted into the room right as she grabbed his you-know-what, no doubt starting to start some oral. I turned off the TV after that part of her barfing played and told my wife to get out. She wasn't getting her phone back until I went through it, and she better not try to delete anything off Facebook. And if she didn't call me within 20 minutes from her father's home, I was going to expose everything, and she could completely forget about reconciling after this. Man, if he had that video of her barfing on that guy and, dubbed out certain parts like faces and everything, and obviously his package, but just showed the barfing part, that'd go viral all over TikTok and YouTube and all that. If they did enough to make it that, they wouldn't delete it, I made it clear that if I find out that she's been going anywhere near Mike, texting him or calling him, or anything regarding him, I was going to completely expose her. I also glared at her and said, even if you do what I tell you, I may still expose everything. I'm having a hard time understanding why I gave you almost 20 years of my life and raised your 2 kids for you to do this to me. She didn't say another word. She took her suitcase and overnight bag and left. And there you go, marrying the single mom, dude. You got divorced the first time because of cheating. And he said the other gals they dated before this chick were cheaters. Well, here you go. And here begs the question, what's she been doing your whole 20-year marriage? Is this really her first time stepping out? So Camille, the police officer, stayed after Michelle left. Camille finally broke down and cried, hard. Yeah, the empathy is strong in me, and my pain was getting the best of me, so I cried with her too. At least it wasn't in front of my cheating wife. No, we didn't stop crying and do revenge hookup crap. Once we got the tears out of our systems, we started talking about what to do next. Then it's totally understandable that she's crying, and it's understandable you're crying, But I'm glad you didn't cry and break down in front of your piece of shit, now ex-wife. Remember, guys, he was with her for 20 years, raised her kids. He never expected this. You see, we live in an at-fault state that also is one of the 8 U.S. states to allow alienation of affection lawsuits. Hey, how about that? I didn't have a prenup or anything like that, but I could prove I was the one who paid for our home and most of our bills, and I was hoping proof of infidelity would get me some sympathy in front of a judge if I ultimately divorced Michelle. What do you mean ultimately divorce Michelle? There's no going back from this, my friend. Camille did have a prenup. Aha. Her husband inherited a home from his grandpa, and he has trust issues with her being a cop and all. She didn't, and being bi, he mentions that, being a cop and bi. She didn't say she had a problem signing their prenup over either, because she believed in monogamy, and she didn't think they'd ever get divorced, so the prenup was just a waste of the lawyer's fees to her. But there was an ugly adultery clause and penalties to her prenup. Pretty much, the betrayed partner gets control of marital assets, shared debts get split 50-50, but individual debts go to the one who took out the debt, like credit card or car loans. And any saving goes 100% to the betrayed spouse. What a great deal for her. This guy wanted the prenup, and he's the cheater, so he gets fucked over. Pretty slick, and it stated evidence of adultery only had to be minimal to enforce. Well, the video I have from my wife's phone, my phone footage, and she could possibly subpoena her own police body cam footage, was a slam dunk. I did file a formal complaint with Camille against her husband, but since my wife was a resident of our house, they weren't going to do anything other than tell him to stay off the property, if the police department even bothered with looking into it. So Mike was smarter than me by getting a prenup, but an idiot for committing adultery. Yes, my wife did call after she got to her dad's home and just told him we were having some marital issues that needed us to be apart for a bit, and that was mostly her fault and didn't want to talk about it. What do you mean mostly her fault? It's 100% her fault. So she didn't throw me under the bus to her dad, narrative controlled. Well, not entirely, because she said it was mostly her fault. Camille and I went through my wife's phone, and sure enough, a lot of calls to their home phone number, but no available messages on Facebook, so it was obviously kept scrubbed and could find no secret apps or apps downloaded history showing any of those self-deleting messaging apps. There were no pictures to be found either, and I hooked the phone up to my computer to make sure there were no hidden files or the recycling bin deleted file section. Either this was their first attempt to get physical, or they were really good at hiding the affair, or there were burner phones. Well, I wouldn't rule out other things going on, and I just don't believe this is your wife, Michelle, codename Michelle's, first rodeo. Both Camille and I took action immediately, sitting at my dining room table. We both had separate checking accounts with our spouses, so we blocked their debit cards, froze credit cards, and she froze her and her husband's savings account. That's what she told me about their savings account and what it was for. That money was being used for fertility treatments because of their Rh blood type incompatibility and for the needs of their first child if there were any complications. Now, obviously, they weren't going to be having a child together. She broke back down saying that their plans were for her to completely quit being an officer when she became a mom and start a career as a paralegal. She was only away from desk duty back on patrol because she was not pregnant anymore. Now, at almost 30 years old, she's going to have a hard time starting over finding a man, and she'd be willing to have a child with and deal with the difficulties of getting pregnant older at a higher risk. Well, now that she is 30, it is going to be more challenging for her to get a guy. We all know this, even though it sounds like from your description she's good looking. And as women get older, obviously it's more challenging to have kids. I just shook my head and told her I gave up the opportunity to have a child being biologically mine when I was close to her age, to be with Michelle and raise her 2 kids. I told her I love the kids I raised, and maybe if she doesn't have her own kids, she could love her next partner's children as her own if she finds it in herself to go down that road. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath. I also told her that this was way too soon to be thinking about children right now, and she's got a cheating husband to deal with first. She did tell me this is the first time she believes he's ever cheated, but it was going to be his last with her. Her biggest new worry was being homeless because their home was his before they got married and was inherited. Now he says here, and now the fallout begins next. And that, gentlemen, is where I'm going to end part 1, because after the whole barfing incident and all that other stuff, it's about to get very interesting, this whole thing with the divorces on both sides, and where this all goes is definitely a good one that you won't see coming. So guys, in 2 hours, I'll be back to show you the part 2 here, and you definitely will get your money's worth. See you then.